What's up, everybody? All right. Should be a pretty good one. Let's see how this goes. There he goes. Yako, what is up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, man. How's everything going?
That's great. I was here. I was working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
But there we go.
we got some drink. I'm drinking water right now,
I'm sorry.
dude. All right, let's just, man, let's jump right into it. Uh, so this has been a uh, not a long time coming. I mean, I think we talked about it for a little bit, but obviously, you know, we I've wanted to have a live discussion with you. I think a lot of people are probably pretty surprised that you entertained the idea. You know, we've had some interactions online, and I've made some pretty aggressive comments towards you about training and shooting. And let me start off first by saying, hey, man, I'm glad you came on and we have a live discussion. For guys that don't know, like this started um, with some comments, and then we were having some DMs back and forth, and then we switched to messages, and then we actually had a couple phone conversations, you know, to get this going. And it's without a doubt, we don't share a lot of the same ideas, and some similarities are there. But I think we just jump right into it. Like we kind of decided, we'll see where this goes. We're going to talk about shooting training, and I think the easiest thing to jump into, right, is, and I've seen it in some of your videos, right, in explanations you have where you talk about what happens on the range versus what happens in reality.
Yeah, I think that this is a very interesting topic uh, because in my opinion, is one of the first mountain. As I told you when we took it during our conversation, pretty interesting conversation. And this is, I want to, before we start, I want to say something. I want to clarify some points here. So, in this industry, we have, in my opinion, a wrong idea about what should be the, the fact that we choose to be in social media means that if you are not willing to accept criticism, you should not be on social media first. Second thing is because the moment that I decide to share material is exactly the moment that I have to accept also people that have different ideas, right? Second thing is that there is nothing wrong uh, having or discussing with people that they think or they have a different approach or they don't agree or they disagree in some techniques, option, technical point of view about training, about application, whatever. And I think is uh, having a constructive confrontation is the only way to have a general, a mutual growth in this industry. But the problem here is that a lot of people they have a big ego, so they don't like when have people that they start to make some criticism or some start to argue about what they do or what we are doing in our platform, in social media, in our training, in our job, whatever. As I told you, the days that we had our phone call every day for like 3 4 days was for me was great. Was a great pleasure because I had the opportunity to to discuss and to go deep. For me, is a passion also, right? It's something that I do really with passion. It's not only a job. It's a kind of job that I love. So having and seeing this in another professional even if we arrive from completely two different paths in terms of profession, in terms of life experience, in terms of, and we started in a tough way, right? Because we didn't start in a friendly way. But as always, as I think is the best is always to have a discussion, to talk about it. Let's talk. Which is your idea? Which is mine? Let's see what's wrong, what's right, where we can agree, where we can. At the end of this live, probably you will stay in your position in many points. I will stay in my position in other points. But doesn't matter this. We are not discussing about who is cooler than the other. We are talking about a technical point. We're talking about how is a very complex matter. So I think that this is something that should happen more often in this industry. Think about how many people are in social media, and when you see followers, zero. They don't follow anyone else. Why? I am here. It's not a shame to follow other people, other professionals. It's not a shame to see what they're doing. It's not a shame to learn, to have a great idea for other professionals. It's not a shame to say, hey, maybe I'm wrong in this. I was wrong in this point. Maybe you are right, or vice versa. But this is what should happen more often. This is the only industry. Normally, see what happened with doctors, for example. They organize congress to share new techniques or new methodologies for do surgeries, or a specific technique for a specific surgery. And it's a worldwide appointment. And they share, and they go there, they discuss. This is, we don't do this in this industry. Why? Because
No, no,
everybody is
no.
fixed
I agree, man.
in
But we got to start discussing. We only got an hour, baby.
yeah, sure, sure. Sorry.
So we talked a
That's it.
little bit about it, right? There's range, and then there's reality. I think in the training world, anybody that's training with guns, we don't really need to be that vocal, in my opinion, about what we're actually training for. We all know it. But you have some pretty unique ideas, right? So I just want you to go into like your thoughts, right? And then I'll give you my range versus reality. Like, what are
Yeah.
you trying to get out of the range, and how are you structuring that to feed into what's going to actually be required for application?
So the first problem we face normally in training, and here is again, is depend who we are, because it's based on the ranges. The shooting ranges are places where you can find different kind of people, or different kind of subjects. You could have civilians with just a simple passion of shooting. You can have a sporty shooter, pro shooter. You can have law enforcement. You can have civilians that they use to carry firearms. You can have military guys. Everybody want to train with a firearm. Normally this happens inside the shooting range. So the shooting range is our learning environment. So in any other discipline, the first step is to try to create a learning environment that matches as more as it can with the applicative environment. This is not about firearms. This is works like this in every kind of discipline where you have a learning environment and where you have an applicative environment. The two environments, they should be as more similar as they can. In this case, when we talk about the shooting range, this is the first mountain we have to climb because we have a big problem. Now, if we take an example, a pro shooter as a competitive shooter, the competitive shooter trains himself inside the shooting range. And so the shooting range is his learning environment, is where he built his skills, is where he improved everything in terms of technical skills, in terms of physical skills, in terms of application, and blah, blah, blah. Then from there, where is going to apply when he does competition? In the shooting range, because competition are made in the shooting range. So the attendance of the two environments, that's called the attendance of the environment, is 100%. So you have the competitive shooter train inside the shooting range and apply inside the shooting range. So for the competitive shooter, there is a 100% of attendance in what they do, in what he does. Now, if we're going to anybody that has a firearm, as a tool in his job, or any military, law enforcement, civilians that can carry a firearm for defense, we have to climb the first mountain. And the first mountain is based on the fact that we train inside the shooting range, so the learning environment is a common learning environment, but we apply in the real environment, in the real contest. And the shooting range and the real contest are two different environments, completely different. It's 0% of attendance. Every time I heard the word the real, combine it or in the same sentence as a shooting range with the shooting range is something that's wrong, because there is nothing that is real in the shooting range. The shooting range has nothing in common with the real environment. Shooting
So,
range is b-dimensional environment.
so
Go ahead.
I think that's a pretty bold statement, right? Because in my opinion, there's a ton that is the same way, the same, from training on the range versus application in terms of what you're doing with the tool, right? And that's where I think a lot of guys it gets lost, or you start to add layers and layers of kind of minutia that don't really need to be there, right? The similarities are if I'm going to be fighting with a tool, and then I'm looking for demonstration at the highest levels in terms of performance control and accountability with that tool, right? To me, those are the similarities, right? It's I think it's hard to say there are no similarities, right? Because when you do that now, and this has happened in like American tactical training over and over and over. Guys get under these blankets, right? Where they get under this blanket, they don't understand performance, they don't understand how to talk about performance, so they just add a bunch of layers to it. We used to train that way back in the '90s, right? It was like we're going to do a bunch of push-ups and run around, and this is going to sort of mimic some sort of stress or combat stress, and then you're going to shoot, and then they measure you, and then that somehow was how they tied together kind of application versus the range. But to me, I think the range and reality are very similar because you're doing the same thing. It's just conditions and modifiers that become different.
It's depend about which point of view you want to approach this point, because the shooting range is a kind of environment that is a b-dimensional environment. The real environment is three-dimensional environment. The shooting range is a flat environment where you work mainly in upright position. All the targets are in the same level as yours, in the same plane, are vertical, perpendicular on the floor. Normally, the shooting range are flat. 98% of time you spend in the shooting range is during the daylight time, but you carry the firearm 24 hours a day, and 86% of crimes happen during low light or during the evening, so completely different conditions. The shooting range is a controlled environment because the environment you have around you in terms of ballistic is quite homogeneous. The real environment is not built for firearms. So if you walk on the street and you do like 10 yards walking on the street, you can have multiple micro ballistic environments that are absolutely heterogeneous, and these change also your priorities. Normally when we are on the range, the second mountain we have to climb on the range is the very low interaction that you have in terms of sensorial interaction. Means that your brain doesn't work. The only things you have on the shooting range in terms of visual stimulus, the shooting range is it's really a low detailed environment. What you to discriminate a target is so easy. You don't need to. It doesn't require to your brain any kind of particular job. It's something very easy. On the auditory level, you have just your voice, the bang, and the beep. That is a pre-known stimulus, very long stimulus, because it's a 0.20 the average. So in terms of interaction, the shooting range is like, for your brain, is 3% maximum compared to the 60% you can have just crossing a traffic road. So this is a kind of environment that, if you think, the only element you have in common between the learning environment, the shooting range, and the applicative environment, the real contest, the only element, in my opinion, these two environments have in common is the human capital, is the shooter. And because even the tool can change. Maybe on the range you can use a shotgun or kind of platform that after is not the same that you can have when you have to apply or whatever. So it's not about the firearm, it's about the general principle you have. So when we talk about shooting, we have to clarify that we have to put in correlation four different elements. The human capital, the shooter, the tool, the firearm, the target, and the environment. Because the three elements, the shooter, tool, and target, whatever is, they're going to be rolled in a kind of environment, whatever is the environment. If it's natural or artificial environment, if we are talking about jungle, desert, or a urban environment, whatever is the correlation is going to be inside one environment. Now, the point is, the first interaction, the first absolute interaction is between the shooter and the tool. How we have to interact with the firearm. And this is the efficiency that we can produce in this interaction is where here in this industry are based 70% of the mistakes. Because why? First, people have rushed to learn. They want everything. They want now. They want to skip the hard job. They don't care. If you tell them, hey, listen, probably require you years before you arrive on a good level, you scared them because they want to reach the level. They become instructor in 7 days or in 3 days. How you can become an instructor in 3 days? I mean, it's dependent. And even here, I think we have different level of instructors. We can have a shooting instructor, we can have a firearm instructor, we can have a firearms trainer. It's in my opinion, there are different professional figures inside the industry. But
But wait,
regarding the
wait, let's go back. Let's go back. Let's focus this up on training, right? Range versus
Mhm,
reality, right?
mhm,
So if there's nothing in common, right, with range versus
mhm.
reality, then where are you supposed to train for the application?
We have it's for we are forced to train for sure in a kind of facility that is built to allow us to train in safely with a firearm. So the shooting range. The problem is which is the solution, which how I can translate my training in a way that could be effective in the application that is going to be in a kind of environment that is completely different. The only way I have to do it is to work on the shooter, on the human capital, because that is the only element that they have in common. So this means step number one, the first thing I have to do, I have to build a very solid base. The first interaction, shooter, firearm, that is the point. That is the key. That is the first, is the basement foundation, fundamentals of shooting. If people, this means biomechanics, mechanics, and biomechanics. If people, they don't build a solid foundation, every time you talk about basic course, people are so scared. If I'm going out with a free basic course, and then at the same time I'm going out with a $1,000 hostage rescue ninja stuff with MVG and all the bullshit that you can add. People want to join the second one because the first there is a word basic, and people they hate the word basic because they don't consider themselves basic even if they bought the gun 1 week before. Understand? So they have rushed to learn. They are not really interested many times to learn because sometimes to learn is boring. It's not something, but we don't need to provide them any kind of fun on the range. We have to provide solid information. So one of the things is I had students that joined the courses, different kind of courses, or they try to arrive to the intermediate level, or they try to have a kind of course where, and they barely are able to grip the gun. And so why they want to go in advanced stuff if they don't fix the foundation of shooting, if you are not able to hit the target using a proper technique basing on the foundation of the shooting. So step number one, in my opinion, is to fix the foundation, the fundamentals of shooting. Step number two should be the improvement or of the systems that we have, because using a logic principle in this industry, we this industry moves between appeal to authority or appeal to people. appeal to authority because someone said me this or I saw this in the internet. Or appeal to people is I do this because many people they do the same without understanding why they're doing this. And I found this also inside the units. I found how many times, Matt, do you see the procedures, the cool stuff in the internet where you shoot on with a rifle, then you transition for pistol, you shoot some round with pistol, then you go back checking the rifle and using a pistol and then back in holster with a pistol, then you can reload the rifle or whatever. So I found this in the units and I said, this procedure is wrong because it doesn't pass the filter of logic. Now, whatever is the technical point, there is no way that something is can't every single inch of knowledge or of technique or of technical points or information has to pass the simple and aseptic filter of logic. If doesn't work for logic, if there is a logical fallacy, what we are talking is completely fake, false. No matter who is going to say this, but has to pass the filter of logic and common sense. Period.
Yeah.
That's the only things.
So I think the one you're talking, the check drill. Like I'm not a fan of the check drill. To me, it's obviously a legacy type drill. Somebody brought it into to the training world as a standalone demonstration of skill. You're going to shoot a prescribed number of rounds, transition, so you're working some gun handling elements, and then after that transition, you're going to reholster. And then the idea that I was always told was, hey, get your rifle back up to the condition you want it to be in, and maybe re-engagement. They time the overall thing, thinking that the time would be some sort of stress. Yes, I am not a fan of the check drill. I don't think it has a lot of application outside of you're just demonstrating doing skills under a time constraint that someone would set. So so if you had to like looking at like kind of all the things, because I'll tell you, like, it's one of the things that I think is happening is we're trying to pigeonhole you into like, hey, range versus reality, but we haven't said like what do you think is the difference between range versus reality, right? We're talking about kind of your ideas on the range and what it should be, and all of these things you have to overcome. Let's say if you had to prioritize one thing, somebody that has a gun, we'll talk about pistol, people that carry a pistol, one thing that you have to be able to do good, right? Because even if they bought the pistol, they bought the holster, they have it there, no training, it goes into they're out, right? That is the fact. At least in the United States, that's what people do. So if we have one thing that we have to have guys focus on, what is that one thing?
I think if I have to start with one thing related on the for sure our foundations of shooting.
One thing.
Foundation. Yeah, one thing is, I mean, you mean one movement or the draw? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, the first step. If I have to be focused, better one thing than nothing, better foundation than nothing, for sure. But that's not enough. That is
Yeah.
it.
I mean,
It's enough for shooting range, but it's not enough
I think that
for the application.
I think it's much simpler than that, right? I think the one thing you have to do, you buy a gun, you buy a holster before you start training, is you have to be safe, right?
Oh no, okay, sorry, I misunderstood that. Yeah,
Yeah,
like I was thinking about training. Were asking me about what I
it,
suggest to train, where I suggest to train. Yeah, for sure, safety is always the first point,
yeah.
especially in training.
And I think, that's one thing that kind of gets overlooked, because like you said, nobody wants to focus on the basic stuff. In my mind, the basic things, doing the basic things very, very well, that's what's advanced,
Absolutely.
right? The other shit is it doesn't matter. So let's talk about range versus reality. So the things that I have found very common in what I have historically done on the range versus what I've done in actual fights, right? Is I'm trying to do the same thing with modifiers, right? I'm trying to make the bullets go exactly where I want them to go as fast as I can possibly get them there, right? So that's where I think it's the same, it's the common things, right? But until I can do that on the range, until I can demonstrate when the conditions are in my favor, I'm not stressed, it's sunny, I'm wearing shorts, I'm comfortable, that I can execute on demand in those conditions at a very, very high level, right? Kind of, I always look at performance, control, and accountability. Those are not competing efforts. So I want the max of all three of those. Until I can do that, we can't even start to talk about adding modifiers to train for reality. But what it sounds like you talk about is you try to take a more an approach to training that right off the bat, you're giving guys a lot of things to think about and work on. Do you do that?
No, I also depend about the level of the course. So if we're talking about, for example, a basic course, normally we start working on the first block, on the first tractor. The first tractor is always mechanics and biomechanics, so the foundation. So it's this means that the first interaction has to be based on the point of contact that we have with the tool are our hands, but the hands by so the grip is the dominant part on the mechanics. But out of that is the way that we control the stances, the point of gravity, how we move, because we have to prepare, we have to start in a static condition to move in a semi-dynamic condition to arrive to full dynamic in the future. But first of all, we have to start, before we start to crawl, then we start to learn how to walk, and then we can run. We can start from crawl to run immediately. We have to go step by step. So one thing is what we apply on the range in terms of mechanics and biomechanics. One thing is the kind of information we give to the students. I start with one point. I know perfectly that what we have on the range, as we discussed it already, even with you, is whatever I'm going to do on the range is going to be a pre-known action, pre-known target, pre-known stimulus, because I have an auditory stimulus that is a beep that I know perfectly, which is I don't have nothing to discriminate. All the target are pre-known target. I'm going to shoot for first. I'm going to move for first. I'm going to be the only one that I shoot. So how I can consider this kind of condition that I found outside? Just the fact that I have in my license there is the word defense means that I'm allowed to use a firearms to defend myself, right? But to defend myself means that I have to be sure that I'm receiving a kind of action that is against me, that is put my life in threat, or the threat of me, of my or someone around me. But I have to be sure that this is happening to take out my gun and use my gun as last ratio, right? So this probably put me, change completely the starting point. On the range, I always start for first, but in real life, probably I'm going to react and not to act. So this means, especially on the civilian side or law enforcement side, it's not enough that I see a firearms, I see the print of a firearms on someone, because could be a police officer. I can't shoot someone just because I think could be dangerous, because has a knife or has a gun.
Yeah. No.
I have
Yeah. Yeah. I agree, but we're you already just like you kind of inadvertently layered a bunch of stuff on there. So let's talk about the foundational skills.
yeah
If you have to, because to me, I like simple terms,
yeah
right? I explain things very, very simple in my training, right? I'm a huge fan of like an inductive learning approach. You have to experience the thing. I could sit up there and talk till I'm blue in the face, which a lot of instructors do. They give these long diatribes about grip and blah, 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 and all this shit, where they're talking about very specific techniques. They're not talking about principles. Like when you say foundational skills, right? Whether do you say foundational skills or do you say fundamentals?
fundamentals is the package. I mean,
Yeah.
is the structure. Yeah.
So when you say fundamentals, right? If you were to simplify them, like what fundamentals are you primarily teaching?
We start basically, the first thing we teach is the interaction between the hands and the firearms, grip. Then we pass from grip, we pass together with the grip, we have a grip, trigger, focus. Now on the focal, for example, on the focus, we have 4 different focal conditions. And even there, every subject is different. Every subject has a different approach. Every subject has different structure. For example, we always start our courses doing a 5 minutes of a test. It's an asymmetric test, and there is where you can read all the shooters. We clean everything. If we are in live fire, for example, we clean we clean the shooters. We don't allow people to carry magazines with ammunition or to don't have ammunition with them. We put in live in the firing line, and then we ask them to go in, for example, in aiming position and to freeze for 5 minutes. Why we do something like that? First, because we read the students. Second, because when you shoot, it's a we have to consider that we are in 2024, so we have a lot of scientific evidences. We have a lot of knowledge. We have a lot of more information than what was in the 60s. So we don't have to be stuck at there. So now, for example, we know that how it's important to balance, even when you work on the biomechanics. If we talk about biomechanics, we talk about a specific movement, specific angles that we can get to be more efficient with the interaction. So when they start, the first 5 minutes, we allow them to do their aiming position in the base what they have done until that moment. And we don't proceed with corrections during those 5 minutes. We want to see them, and from there you can read your student. I'm pretty sure that everyone has a little experience on training, can read any kind of subject just watching him shooting, in terms of stances, in terms of how they manipulate the firearm, and it's completely safe because they are completely dry. Plus, why we ask them to freeze for 5 minutes. We fix for 5 minutes because normally when you shoot the target, whatever is the action that is required, whatever is the drill, you don't know for real if you are using the proper muscle groups or not, or which kind of muscle groups you are using. The chain, there are open and closed chains. So the chain that you use, many times people, they use a small groups for big effort. That's a big mistake, because after they done, they can be efficient, especially if they don't have experience on that. But the exposure or the effort you have just shooting a target for a few seconds is known. So you never know if you don't feel the pain, and we use pain to track the muscle groups they use when they are in aiming position. If you don't feel pain, you don't know if you are using all the chain or the proper muscle groups to control your tool, to control your aiming condition. From that we start, and there we start with a grip, trigger, focus, stances, point of gravity control in a static condition. So we start to, and then when we finish that, we pass to the most important transition, the one between the holster and the target. That is also represent the transition between the standby condition and the application of the firearm. And from there we go forward. But that is normally the process that we apply. So we start
So
with
you have them just when you say freeze, they're just holding the gun on the target for 5 minutes.
in aiming position, in their aiming position, in what is at that moment their aiming position. So from there you can see how many mistakes they have, where they have to work, how much experience they have with the firearms, if our shooters, if they came from different trend in training, like if they work with Israeli style, or you can see by the grip, you can see by the legs, you can see by the feet, you can see if our competitive shooters, which kind of experience they have, how they point to the target, how they hold the firearms. And you know what? I have done thousands and thousands of students all around the world, and this provided me data, statistics in terms of many things. And also I had to face this because working worldwide, one of the biggest issues I had to face was the safety. That's the procedures, because many times you work with translators. It's not easy to stop someone with using a translator. So to avoid this passage, and many times translators, they don't know nothing about firearms. This even inside the unit. Inside the units, if the translators are not people that are military, or it's a pain in the ass to manage the safety, because maybe different procedures, there is a big delay between the order and the execution. So to avoid this stuff, I use, for example, whistle. So I use different kind of number of whistle when they have to execute the firing action, or they have to freeze, or it depends which is the moment. In this way, I can bypass the translators. But what I saw in many years is that, for example, this kind of drill we start to apply like 6 7 years ago, more or less. And we know perfectly which kind of results we have in the base of the stances they have in terms of biomechanics. So people that are going to have pain on the back, on the neck, because the back is too rigid, or people they are going to have 90% of people they have pain on deltoids because they still hold the gun instead to push the gun more, or they have a lot of pain on the forearm, 5%. Normally, this is a percentage, the average. Why? Because they hold the gun, the firearms too tight, and they don't balance. Now, I don't want to go in too much on details inside of what is a grip or whatever, but that is a good starting point. I always say from there is where I start the technical program, because you can't know, especially when you work. If you work with a civilians, for example, or private, not civilians, you can have a course where you can have law enforcement, civilians, military all together, but it's a private course, so it's not an agency course or whatever. So it's
In
absolutely
a
theory.
typical course, like when you're training, um, 5 minutes of having them do that, and you start the technical training, like you said. Like, at what point are you getting your students to start shooting?
Oh, that is absolutely variables in the base of which is the program. If we are talking, for example, about basic pistol course, we can. I'm going to start shooting when everybody's safe, everybody's clean, everybody has a clear movement in terms of whatever is required for the basic manipulation. So it's depend about which kind of audience you are, which kind of group. Every group is different. You can have, but you have to base your program in the weaker ring. You can base it, the weaker student. You can base the program on the faster and the strong one, because this means that you're going to push the others doing something that is out of their skills, and this be in terms of safety could be really dangerous, because you push people to do something that a step that is bigger than their legs. So normally could be at lunchtime, late in the morning. It's depend about when we start. It's depend about the weather outside where we are. But could be. I don't work with a. I don't start shooting with a watch. I start shooting when they are ready to shoot. When I know that the group more or less the levels is in terms of safety, in terms of manipulation of the firearms. We get a good level in the firing line. At that point, we can start shooting.
And how many rounds do you guys typically shoot in a pistol class?
Say again, sorry.
How many rounds will you typically shoot in a 2-day pistol class?
In a 2 day pistol classes, depend again about the group. You can have a group that are the level of the group could be higher than another level, or you can have a group that is it's very slowly in the progression training. We can go for 100 rounds to 150, 200 rounds per day, not more.
For a day?
Yeah,
So what would you
100.
what would you say if I tell you, like, I take guys through a doubles progression with pistol, right? It's one of the very first things that I do in training. And that progression will encompass sometimes 500 to 600 rounds within
Yeah.
an hour and a half.
Uh, that's probably you have a better price of ammunition where you work. If I here in, for example, there are places in the world where this can happen in one day because you are maximum allowed to carry 200 rounds. So there is no way that you can shoot 500 rounds in one day.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's definite limitations. Do you think that though, right? If guys come to a shooting class, a course on shooting, you know, they want to shoot, right?
I
Like,
don't care what
how
they want.
really?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it's a bold move, Cotton. Have you seen that movie,
Yep.
Dodgeball?
Yeah, I mean, they come to a training course. I have out the program. They don't decide the rules. I don't care if they want to shoot 500 rounds. Maybe are not. If I follow this trend, I was in jail because I don't know how many people they were shot during the courses. I don't care what they want. I'm the instructor there. They shoot when I think they are ready, and they shoot when I say them to shoot. And another thing is, uh, this is some years ago, many years ago. There were a lot of courses in Israel or in Russia for civilians where you can join former special forces, bullshit courses like that. So you pay a lot of money, and they brought you in Israel or in Russia, and basically for 6 hours a day you do physical exercises, and maybe 1 hour you do some technical stuff. So if I have to join a course just to do physical, I can't get in shape in 3 days courses. So it's not that the place where I have to do 500 draw. I think that the course is the place where I have to learn how to do it one in the proper way. I want to learn the movement. Then I work by myself for free on reps. But there I want the best movement, the best biomechanics, the best information. Then when I am alone, I can shoot by myself 500 rounds for free. I don't want to shoot at the course 500 rounds. I want get information from my instructor. It depends which is the course. There are courses where you have more information, and a course where are less information. I think it's you can shoot even 2,000 rounds. It depends what you get out when you finish the course is what you can put inside your luggage and take it home. That's
Yeah,
it.
and
So it's not
I'll tell you,
based on the.
I think from the way that I like to train is that one, they're like the induct. You've got to experience it. Guys have to shoot, right? And then in terms of feedback, like the technical information, like what they're getting, they have to experience. You have to shoot so that you can see people shoot. Does that make sense? Unless you're like, there's gonna come like training, part of the course is you're getting information, you're getting concepts on how to train effectively, right? But with that, the course is more of a guided training session than it is like if you stand up there. What I always would hate is times that I trained with people like 45 minutes of discussion, 10 minutes of shooting. And then we go right back into 45 more minutes of discussion. Like I always was like, in my opinion, the way that I structure my courses, it's backwards, right? I want to keep the amount of time when we're not shooting and not actually training to a very minimum, right? I understand ammo. Like, obviously, I train in the United States. Ammo is available. There's no type of legal limit. The 200 round thing, like, that would be, to me, that would almost make it impossible to conduct training the way that I conceptualize training.
Yeah, not only think about that. For example, there are places where the ammunition are very expensive. You can pay a 9 by 19 $1. So you have also to match with the conditions that you find there, and this also inside the units. Many times, how big is the word and how various is. But if it was for me, and here is where we are not agree. For example, different kind of approach. That's great. I'm totally okay with that. If it's me, if I have a building the basic course of 3 days, I probably dedicate day, 1 day enough in a classroom, and maybe 1 day enough on the range, on shooting. That's what in my opinion is my concept of where it's depend. Wait, now we have to define the audience. If we are talking about professionals, if we are talking about military guys, law enforcement, or we are talking about hybrid audience, or we are talking about civilians, or it's different. Because if you have to run a very high court, so sure the information, the in terms of applications, more the application than the informations in terms of theory and whatever. But I think, and this is one of the, in this industry, people want to, now as we talk, as we said already, one of the things that a firearm trainer should do is to simplify as more as he can the matter, because the matter is already by itself really complex, right? But at the same time, we don't need to simplify too much, because otherwise we provide something that is not complete. And in my opinion, one of the biggest fault can have a trainer is that his students, they do something imitating him, copying him, without understanding why they're doing that. So many times happened also in the unit. I took it with one guy in the Middle East, that from SF, that he told me, Zero, after 12 years here in the unit, finally I understood why we did something like that for years, because nobody told me why. I do it. We did the same thing. We used to do the same things, but nobody explained it as why. So the why of things is something that is mandatory, in my opinion. And here, appeal to authority or appeal to people doesn't work. You have to pass knowledge, scientific evidence, and logic. Logic is always the first filter. Whatever is the messenger, whatever is the instructor, I don't care about the background. I don't care about what I have done before. Whatever is going to share has to make sense, has to pass the filter of logic, and have to understand as a student, as an adult instructor, whatever, has to make sense. Otherwise, we're talking about, if it's based on just his personal experience, just about his specific personal experience, I don't think that's something that has any evidence in terms of it's not provable, you know.
Do you think though experience, for me, I will tell you, like, I don't teach to my experience, but my experiences in this, in the application of training and stuff like that is what drives the way that I train. So
Absolutely.
do you think I completely, we do agree on that, right? Like I don't, it doesn't matter what I used to do, right? It's what I can do now. I'm a big believer in that. But what I do now is so different than what I did, you know, 20 years ago. It's different than what I did 5 years ago,
It has
right?
to be
And
like this.
and it keeps evolving. So I do think experience matters. Let's talk. You mentioned one thing because we're going to run out of time here shortly. Trainers versus shooting instructors, right? Um,
Yeah,
and
I
I
think it's related on the kind of environment you want to teach. So if we are talking about shooting instructors, shooting instructor by itself means someone that teach you how to shoot. That doesn't mean specifically nothing. I mean, could be a skeet or trap shooting, or could be Olympic shooting, could be static shooting, could be. So the shooting instructor, I think normally I put in these categories people that are related on the shooting range. So they teach you. I'm not talking about the level. I'm not saying that shooting instructor is a lower level. I'm thinking about where are specialized. They are specialized and teach you how to shoot the performance, really strictly on the performance of shooting. And this could be inside the competitive shooter, the sport shooting instructors, everyone that works inside the shooting range is related on that kind of environment, because there is a big difference where you are going to teach or which is the final goal of what you're teaching. So the shooting instructor, in my opinion, are instructors that are focused on the shooting, but is limited on the shooting range environment. When we talk about firearms instructor, the firearm instructor normally is a kind of figure, in my opinion, that came out from agencies. For example, inside every agency or department or military, you can have a qualified figure that are shooting instructors, where are built by a specific matrix that could be a police or law enforcement matrix or military matrix or whatever is the unit, but are structured inside their agencies, inside their reality, inside that a specific space, a specific environment in terms of appurtenance. Uh, when we talk about a firearms trainer, we are talking about a figure that works in different environments in terms of shooting range and other environment like real environments, but is based on specific application of training. So is a kind of training specialist, is a subject that is able to build a training program, to build the architecture of training in high level, in different for different audience, for different specification. And here again, regarding what you said right now of the experience, is always depend on what you teach, to who you teach, and which kind of skills, knowledge, experience of application you have in that segment you want to teach. For example, if they ask me as a sniper, I'm not a sniper. I don't have to sell me. My job with the company is to find the best sniper I can, a sniper instructor for sure. I can in the market, and to provide to the client the best snipers, not to go as a sniper because I never applied as a sniper. You have to be serious in the application. Same process for CQB or for medical, whatever. If it's out of my field of experience, if it's out of my skills, if it's out of I many times in this industry, people resell training. I did a lot of courses as a TCCC courses, whatever, but I can't be an instructor because I'm not a medic. My task is to find the best medic I can on the market, the best instructor, and to provide them the best service. I don't have to sell me. I have to sell the best service to my clients. That's the point. You have to have experience in what you teach, experience in terms of application. Understand? That was my opinion. That's what the idea I have.
I think I'm an Instagram shooting instructor. So whatever that means, that's what I'm going to go with. That's where I think it's interesting, right? And I think from, I focus primarily on, firearms training, rifles and pistols, uh, as the primary focus. What I notice within the training industry is there are a lot of guys who are kind of very happy with regurgitating information, and then there are guys who are very dedicated to innovating and making that information up, right? And I think it benefits the training world, but sometimes it gets laborious, right? There is a lot of fucking non-playable characters in this world, right? Guys that aren't contributing, right? If this is a community, right? They're guys upholding standards, guys pushing innovation, right? And to me, I think trainer and instructor can be used kind of interchangeable, but those are the guys that are actually who people are looking to, right? Not the one that's regurgitating the shit over and over and over, right? And to me, that's what I think the big difference is, and it washes out, right? You see it on social media, you see it in these live discussions. There's a lot of different types of dudes, right? And we all don't have to
Yeah,
agree. The big
sure.
issue that I believe with the training industry is the fucking consumers are the ones that fuck it up because they give voices to trash and you suppress, what you should. Like you said originally, guys don't want what they need. They just want what they want.
Yeah, exactly. We continue to sell them what they want instead what they need. And other things, we have to understand that teaching is a separate art for any other discipline. You can be a world champion boxer and then you can suck as a boxing coach. You can be a top level football player and then you can suck as a coach. Doesn't mean that because you were at the top as a player, or in here is the same. So the ability to transfer information, to transfer knowledge to other people is a kind of ability that's completely separate in terms of experience, in terms of skill of shooting, or experience in application. So and Matt, we already talked about that. I don't care about the background. I never asked someone in my life with your background or whatever is what's your. I can understand if someone is competent, know his job or know what is talking about, just talking with him. I don't need to ask the background for that. And every
Yeah.
time someone has to use the background to validate something is because it's not able to validate by logic, by science, by evidence. And this is completely false. And this is how it happened. And as I told you, we can see these people, they join a courses. You know that are courses in Europe for hostage rescue operation inside the airplane for civilians. Now, or every time you see a vehicle class or team tactics for civilians, Jesus Christ. But when you are going to have a kind of condition, one of the mistake I think there is a common mistake in this industry. We think that we can provide solution for everything. No, that is we have to explain people that there isn't a solution for every fucking problem. Sometimes you have to die, period, or sometimes there are no solution. You have to see what you can do, and you have to do at your best. Because as I told, every time you do a vehicle class, you do a vehicle class with is considered a vehicle, but for real is a piece of steel. No engine is not working. One thing is to do something like that inside the range, and one thing is to have a real vehicle where if you have an automatic shift, if you remove your foot from the brake, it's still going, it's still moving, and you are in the middle of traffic. You have other vehicles. If someone bump you, you have an airbag, and if you shoot instead up to the steering wheel in front of your airbag, that could be a problem. That's logic, and no one is taking in consideration. No one at the training courses taking consideration if you have your wife beside you or any other member of your
But
family.
man, Yeko, shooting through the windshield's fun, dude.
Yeah, everything is fun. That's people. That's what
Hey,
people want.
I know. Hey, man, we're gonna get cut off here in a minute. I got a tiny bit of time left. I'll let you give you the last word, let you wrap it up. Appreciate you coming on. This one I will post so you can grab it and take it over to your
Yeah,
page, and I'll
sure,
leave it up for a
100%.
while. But anything you want to say to anybody listening, parting gift, last words?
I can say that training versus reality. Again, filter everything. You have to filter whatever is the courses you are going to join. You have to filter the information in the base of your experience and your needs, and in the base of that, because everyone is different, has different needs, different goals in training. So we have to be real, but we have to be serious when we do training courses because there is no space. This industry is fucked up already for me, and it's we are going in the wrong direction. It seems that have a gunfight is something cool, something that you maybe you hope to have because you have the last model of super customized platform. You can have your nodes, your NVG. If you don't have software respirator NVG on your helmet, you are known in no days. That's simple fancy. Think about how it works outside the United States. Think about how many countries. If we already covered this
Yeah.
point. So
No, man. It is. It's the way it is. Everybody wants to be a gangster until it's time to be a gangster, right? That happens everywhere. So, hey, Yeko, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks a lot.
Thank
You
you
know,
for this conversation. As always, it's a big pleasure for me to exchange opinion with you, and I think you could be a game changer in this industry. As I said in private
I
to
don't know
you,
about that. I'm gonna quit this fucking industry before too long. But hey, man, we're gonna get cut off. Yeko, thanks a lot.
hey,
Appreciate it. We'll hang
thank
this
you,
one
take
up.
care,
Talk to you
thank you,
guys later.
thank you.